Net neutrality, or non-discrimination as it's sometimes called, has been part of the internet since its inception. It's always been there. In fact, it's been part of communications law as long as we've had it in this country, back to the 1930s. And that says if you're providing the wires or the pipes, you don't get to pick what gets priority as it goes over them. So on the internet, this is crucially important because the internet was designed as a network where the innovation would be out on the edges, where if you're looking to develop something, you know that if you come up with a new product, a new idea, a new application, a new service, you're going to have just as much chance as the next guy to find an audience. We used to have a policy, people will remember, dial-up internet. When you had dial-up internet, and this is still true in much of the rest of the world, you could choose your provider, and that was because there were laws in place that said the phone company has to share their wires. They have to offer access to those wires at the same price to everybody, and it created lots of competition, lower prices, more choices. But when we shifted from dial-up to broadband, this got put into jeopardy. And you saw the cable companies who never have to share their wires saying, well, we don't want to share our wires. They got a ruling in their favor. It went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, I don't know about the merits of this decision, but it's the Federal Communications Commission's right to make this decision, thus putting net neutrality in jeopardy. Cable company didn't have to share their wires. Phone company said, well, if they don't have to share, we don't want to share. They said, okay, you don't have to share either. And suddenly we were left with a situation where for most Americans, if they're lucky, at best, they have two choices of internet providers, phone company or the cable company. There's no real third option or alternative. And now both the phone company and the cable company have said, we want a different kind of internet. Instead of the free and open internet information superhighway, we're going to build a divided highway. And we're going to have a fast lane for our own content and services and those of our close allies, and we're going to have a slow lane for everybody else. And now we're in this political fight about whether they're going to be able to build this new, different internet, I would say much worse internet, or whether we're going to have the free and open internet that we've always had. And I really think that what's at stake is things we haven't even dreamed up yet. You know, a couple years ago, YouTube, never heard of it, didn't exist. You know, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things that we now use the internet for every day that we take for granted might not have developed without a neutral internet. In most countries there, they actually have kept a lot of the what would be called here open access requirements. So in a lot of Europe, your dominant provider still has to share their wires. So even though that's a policy we invented here, in Europe and in Asia, they've taken that policy so that you have a lot more choices. Prices are lower. In France right now, you can get it the triple play for probably a third, you know, where you get cable, TV, and phone, you get it for a third of what it would cost here, and it's probably 20 or 50 times as fast. That's the result of good policy. Reporters need to engage themselves in these important discussions. If you care about getting your story out there, if you care about really exposing what's happening, holding corporate and government leaders accountable, which I think our best journalists and our best reporters do, then you need to care about net neutrality, because you shouldn't need permission from AT&T or from Comcast or from anybody else to get your story out there, to find an audience, to share your words and video or whatever, audio, whatever you have, with as many people as possible. So I think at its heart, net neutrality is fundamentally a journalism issue. And if you care about free speech and a free press, you need to be concerned about net neutrality and the future of the internet.